G'day. Let's have a chat about Dunkin Donuts and the danger of literal branding. You're probably all familiar with a brand called Dunkin Donuts. You're probably also familiar with a saying or a variation of it that says what got us to where we are today is not necessarily what's going to get us to where we need to be in the future. And that to me certainly sums up Dunkin Donuts. It's a brand that started back in the 50s in the US, and they were selling coffee and donuts, the dunking of the donut. Although I'm not sure I've ever dunked a donut in coffee. Have you? Has anybody? I don't know. Anyway, it's what helped, I think, Dunkin Donuts establish itself as a global brand. They had a very simple brand promise. We had great coffee and great donuts. Now, what it does to me, though, is it represents the contradiction of branding, which is, initially at least, you've got to be very narrow and very specific so that your brand message and your brand mission is clear and that people know what they're getting. Yet as you expand or as you want to diverge, that specificity might actually work against you. And that's what's happening, I think, now with Dunkin. They've decided to drop off the donuts off the end of their name. So now they're just known as Dunkin. This has happened in the US. It's rolling out internationally a bit slower. But the idea is that they've decided to be more of a beverage-led company. And so if they're not doing donuts, they drop the donuts and now they're just Dunkin. But the problem is Dunkin as a beverage brand doesn't really make sense unless you're going to be dunking stuff in the beverages, and I don't think that's really where they're going. And so again, I think it's a great example of the contradiction of branding. When you start, you've got to be very specific, but as you grow and expand or diverge, you have to think about how that specific brand name is going to work for you or against you. Which is why the benefits of a name like Google or Amazon or Apple, these names that didn't really mean anything specific to a product line, although an apple is an apple, but you know what I mean. Those brands are great because you can define what is part of your product set, your product suite of goods. You can't do that necessarily if you've got a brand like Dunkin Donuts. So if you're in the middle of branding, or if you've had a brand for a while, you're thinking about a rebranding, you're thinking about the future, the next 5-10 year plan, think about, is your brand name going to be general and broad enough to be able to allow you to diverge in those directions? If not, you might need to think about changing your brand at some point in time. And if you're going to do that, it should be probably a slow transition as opposed to an overnight thing. So you probably want to start thinking about it now. If you're thinking in maybe 5 or 10 years, you want to start going into a slightly different direction, which isn't true to your current brand name. Alrighty, that is it for today. I do thank you for your time, and I will be back again tomorrow. See ya. Now